Hello, this is going to be a rehash of a session that I taught at NICAR26 for libfec. Libfec is a command line tool for federal campaign finance data from the FEC. It's a very fast tool, it downloads a bunch of data all at once, very good for data journalists who work on campaign finance data for congressional races, presidential races, committees, PACs, all that stuff. Now, I taught this class at NICAR26 this year in Indianapolis this past weekend, and here's a video of it in case you missed that, or if a coworker wants to learn more about it. Here you go. A link to this presentation and the tip sheet for this class is going to be in the description. It has a bunch of links on how to install libfec, a lot of different helpful links and everything there. And there's also a manual. So I created this little manual for this class. It is a PDF document. The front page has a lot of nice little links and helpful getting help tips, but there's also a table of contents of common FEC forms. A lot of the time with working with campaign finance data, especially through the FEC, it is very difficult to know where certain numbers came from a spreadsheet. So usually I will have a spreadsheet open and this manual sitting on my desk, so that way I can cross-reference numbers and form names, all that stuff with the data I see on the spreadsheet. It can be very helpful. Also on the very back of the page, on the very back of the pamphlet, there is a cheat sheet guide for libfec specifically. So if you can't remember specific commands or anything there, it is on the back of this. There is also a printable version, so you could print out this booklet, double-sided, just make sure to flip it short on the short side. And you get a little booklet that you can staple together, very helpful when working with FEC data and libfec. Lastly, before I jump into the presentation, I created a Google group for libfec, link down in the description. So if you have any questions about using libfec, you want to file a bug report, you don't know how to format a certain SQL query, go and ask that in the Google group. More than happy to help you out there. Again, all these links to everything down in the description. Now, libfec is a command line tool for FEC data. This is for FEC filings, candidates, campaigns, specifically for congressional campaigns, presidential campaigns, PACs, super PACs, all that stuff. It parses FEC filings whenever it comes up. It uses the Open FEC API to resolve committees with the filings that they produce. It aggressively caches them, so that way it's very, very fast. And what it does is that libfec, the main goal is to get that data from the FEC onto a file on your computer, whether that's a CSV file, JSON, or SQLite database. And then once you have that data in a SQLite database or file or whatever, then you use some other tool to create a data visualization, a pipeline, a news app, a map, whatever you want, all right? So again, libfec, it is a command line tool, Rust, single binary. All it does is downloads all the data that you need for a specific committee, filing, election race, all that. It puts it in a file, and then you use whatever other tool, R, Python, Node.js, Perl, whatever, to get that data into whatever application, map, data pipeline that you want, all right? So this CLI is for the first part, then you use whatever other tool, whatever programming language for the second part, all right? Now, libfec, there are a lot of FEC data tools out there. It seems like every newsroom has created an open source FEC tool in the past decade. Here's a list of just some of them that I found. So for example, FEC Scraper, this is from almost 15 years ago. This is from USA Today. It was a bunch of Python libraries. Fetch, written in Ruby, FEC Parse, Node.js, FEC Python, FEC File, most recently Fast FEC from about 5 years ago, written in C. So there's just a lot of different FEC, open source FEC tools out there. libfec is just the latest one in a long list. And I would say that I learned from creating libfec, I learned from all these different projects. So it was great to have a bunch of different references, and thanks to all the different newsrooms and journalists who actually built these tools in the past, libfec would not have been possible without these tools. Now, libfec specifically is for federal data, all right? So again, think congressional campaigns, House, Senate, President, joint fundraising committees, political action committees, super PACs, political parties, all that stuff. FEC data does not include state or local political races. So if you're looking at California or a specific county, that's going to be handled through those governments. It's not going to be found within FEC data and therefore not accessible with libfec. And it also does not include election results or financial disclosures. There are other data sources out there. FEC data is mainly for financial activity for these congressional campaigns, as well as other federal committees and groups. All right. Let's just jump into libfec. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up the terminal. libfec is a command line tool. It is very easy to install. If you look at the tip sheet, there will be installation instructions. I also recommend downloading or signing up for a API key for the FEC API and exporting it as libfec API key. This is in order for libfec to download filings for a specific committee or a race. It uses the FEC API. There are free demo limits, but those usually cap out quite quick. So again, if you don't want to be, if you do want to have as fast as filings and data as fast as you can, sign up for a libfec API key. The way that you use libfec is through the libfec command line tool. This is the default TUI interface. So instead of a graphical user interface, a GUI interface, this is a textual user interface, or a TUI, where we could do some things like searching for specific candidates. So for example, the one candidate we'll be talking about a lot is James Tallarico, who just won the Democratic primary for Texas Senate. If you go to the search section, you could type out a specific candidate, like Young Kim is another one that is close by to me. But what you can do also is once you do search for a candidate and hit enter, then you could see specific top line data about that candidate. So for example, James Tallarico, we have financial summary information for his campaign from the last few weeks. And so that's just an example of getting a search. The reason why I use search quite often in this interface is to get the candidate or committee ID for a specific candidate. So once you're on a page like this, if you look down here these are just a list of keyboard shortcuts that you could use. So for example, if I press O, that will take me to the candidate page for James Tallarico on the official fec.gov website, which is a little bit slow, like always. Another reason why I like having this TUI interface built within libfec is that it is very, very fast. I do not have to wait. If I want to search for a candidate, I can just open up my terminal, type in libfec, and then my search query, and then I get it there really quickly. Whereas, as you can see for this specific website, this search function is a little bit slow. So that's one benefit to libfec and to command line tools in general, is that they can be very fast. Going back to the terminal to where we just were, I also have this Y command right here. So the yank command, or copy. And what that does is that when you have a specific filing, candidate, or committee selected, it'll have a little pop-up menu where you can choose to copy a specific item or specific information about a candidate to your clipboard. So I do this a lot for copying committee ID straight to my clipboard. So again, back to where we were here, I hit Y for the yank pop-up. And I could select committee ID. If I hover over it, hit enter, then it will copy that committee ID to my keyboard. I can hit Q to quit out to where I was before, Control C to exit, all the way back to where I were. And if I were to paste that committee ID into the info command, then I could again go back and get information about James Tallarico's senatorial campaign committee all through libfec. Now this is all fine and dandy. But if you want to get specific data about this campaign, what we could also do is use the libfec export command. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to paste in this committee ID, which again is for James Tallarico's senatorial campaign. I want to specify that I'm looking at the 2026 cycle, and I'm going to output this to a SQLite database. I'm going to call this tallarico.db. And what libfec did here is that it downloaded all the filings for James Tallarico's campaign. It parsed through those files, it used the cache of those available, and it inserted all that data, all the itemizations, all the individual contributions, disbursements, all that into a SQLite database. Now, there are many different ways to view data within a SQLite database. Use your preferred GUI of choice, Beekeeper, SQLite Studio, all that. There's a few command line tools, for example, Visit Data that I use quite often, where in the terminal, I could just view data that's in a SQLite database, which we will use here. Just a quick overview. So this is inside of the SQLite database we just created. These are all specific tables within that SQLite database. The top one, libfec filings, there was one row per filing inside of this table. So as we saw right here, there are 23 rows inside of this table. So there are 23 filings that James Tallarico's campaign had filed with the FEC. If we scroll down over here to the cover record form, and here I'm just going to use a visit data feature frequency table to see how many values are in this column. So there are 18 filings for form FC that James Talarico's campaign did. For reference, F6. An F6 filing is specifically every 48 hours, if a candidate receives a very large donation within a week or within a couple weeks of an election, they have to file a form within 48 hours that specifies how much they received. So again, an individual gives $5,000 10 days before an election. They have to file within 48 hours a form F6 saying how much they received. Not very exciting, but there's also F3. So when F3 filing is, that is the financial information. This is the report where they specify their financial summary of a campaign. That's the one that we're going to talk about today. So if you see here, again, we are in the libfec filings table within the SQLite database that we already exported. We can see filing IDs on the left-hand side here on the far left column. One of these filings specifically is going to correspond to one that is in this manual right here. So what we can do is, now, of course, you could use SQL, you could use Python, R, Node.js, whatever you want. They all have SQLite client libraries, so you could write SQL in whatever programming language you have to extract data from the SQLite database into, JSON or CSV or any other exports. You could do that, but also libfec has a pre-configured dataset command where we can pass in James Talarico's committee ID just to make it a little bit better. And what libfec will do is that it will compile all the filings that of the committee ID we passed in. So this is all James Talarico's all his filings, so the same data we saw before, and a nice little UI for us to work with. And the best visualization that I have, just to kind of describe what this data includes, is this Sankey diagram right here. Okay, so let me pull out a drawing tablet. So what we have here on the left-hand side over here, this is what the Talarico campaign started. This is income that the Talarico campaign had, all right? So we could see here that a good portion, about $8.5 million came from large dollar donations. We could actually click on this to take a look at the raw data here. But essentially, what this is that large dollars in FEC filings in the official categories that they have, large donors typically refer to people who gave $200 or more for one specific election to a candidate. So $8.5 million came from people who donated $200 or more to the Talarico campaign. Now, with dataset and all these individual itemizations, there is one row for every individual in this table who gave $200 or more. So we can click on that Sankey diagram through this dataset plugin, and we could take a look at the actual data. So we could see that this specific person, Miriam Posey, gave, let's see, there's a lot of columns in here. You can see their full address there. Wow, that's something. Gave $250 to the Talarico campaign. Now this data is as always with all campaign finance data, especially federal campaign finance data, this is a very difficult table to parse through. So for example, that first row that we saw with Miriam Posey, that is one specific person. The next row after that is a conduit earmark through ActBlue. Again, federal campaign finance is hard, but to try and quickly explain, Miriam did not give money directly to the Talarico campaign. She first gave it through ActBlue. If you don't know what ActBlue is, it is a large organization that essentially handles credit card processing for Democratic candidates. So Miriam gave ActBlue money probably through a credit card form on the Talarico's website. ActBlue got that money, and then ActBlue gave that money to the Talarico campaign. So this right here is just showing that, yes, Miriam did specifically donate to the Talarico campaign, but it passed hands through ActBlue first. So that is why in this table, this Schedule A table, to be specific, it is very easy to accidentally miscount or double count something. If you were to take the sum of all the data in this table, it is likely not going to be the $8.5 million here. It's probably going to be $16 million because it's going to double count the original donation and the ActBlue conduit donation. Again, federal campaign finance is very hard, but that's fine because at least all the data you have in a SQLite database, and you can kind of parse it through without having to worry about the FEC API or anything crazy like that. But let's go back to the visualization. So, like we said before, $8.5 million from large dollar donors. $12 million from small dollar donors. So these are people who gave $200 or less. The Talarico campaign is not required to disclose the information on these small dollar donors. So we don't have their names, addresses, or anything like that. Side note, this is available through ActBlue filings. ActBlue is required to list all the people who gave them money. So if someone gave Talarico $100, through ActBlue, it wouldn't show up in Talarico's filings because they're not required to report it, but it will show up in ActBlue filings in a completely separate system. But don't worry, that's another video. I'll make a blog post about how you can get that data. But for now, this entire Sankey diagram is basically just to show that the Talarico campaign specifically was able to get around $21 million through individuals for his campaign funds. Eventually, as of September 8th, which is probably when he launched his campaign, to February 11th, which is the most recent filing that Talarico has submitted, at least as of the recording of this video. We can also see outbound money that came out, so what he spent his money on, and you can see most of this money went to operating expenses. There's still a certain amount that he had cash on hand, so in the beginning of his campaign, he had $0 cash on hand because he had just started his committee. And as of this point, he had spent, as of February 11th, he had spent $16 million on operating expenses and still had around $4 million on cash on hand, so money in his actual bank account. If you want to see what those operating expenses were, if you click on that diagram, this will take you to Schedule B itemizations. So Schedule A itemizations are receipts or income that a campaign or committee has received, while Schedule B is disbursements or money that they spent or sent out side of the campaign. So you could go through the data that is here and try to figure out what he spent operating expenses on. This could be a lot of different things. Typically, it's things like salaries, advertisements, travel, so many different things, typically around campaigning, right? So you could shop around here, so you could look around here. You could take a look at who he actually spent money with, all these businesses, and dates, amounts, all that stuff, right? And again, this is all data that's already in the SQLite database. We use libfec to export it there, and we're using a specific dataset command just to give one example of a visualization to see all this data. All right. You can also scroll down a little bit, and these are some top-level stats. So, for example, we can see over here on the left-hand side a majority of the individual contributions. So these are only including small dollar donors coming from people who live in Texas. We could see that most of the money that he has spent has been on media buys through this organization, Thematic Campaigns, and that's actually a good amount. So around 40% have just been on this one company doing media buys, and also even digital fundraising. So through IL518, that's another 36%. So almost 2/3 of the money that he has raised has gone towards digital fundraising and media buys. Sounds about right for a primary candidate for a large state like Texas, and especially for how high profile this specific election was. So again, libfec's dataset command, you can get a quick little overview of all the different data that is available for a specific campaign or a candidate. Now we could also take this a step further. So what we could also do using the libfec command, I'm just going to go back to my terminal, hit Control-C to exit that. Let me clear it out so you can see this better. What we could also do is we can also take a look at the same data, but for the Texas Senate. So instead of pasting in a committee ID here, I could put in a contest, such as Texas Senate, TX Senate, and we'll specify that this is going to be for the 2026 cycle. And what this will do is that it will find all the candidates who ran who are running in the Texas Senate 2026 race. It will download all their filings. It will parse it, put it in a SQLite database, and then give us an interface, a UI, through dataset to view that data. So again, very similar to what we had before, but in this time we have all the specific candidates. So all the candidates who ran in Texas Senate. So what we see here is we have John Cornyn, who is the incumbent for the Texas Senate seat. James Tallarico, I believe this is ordered by, it looks like cash on hand. So John Cornyn had the most cash on hand as of February 11th. So this is before the election happened, followed by James Tallarico, Paxton, Jasmine Crockett, and all these other candidates, right? We could also click on these specific candidates and again, get another view. So we could see here, John Cornyn has a very different financial outlook compared to James Tallarico. Again, this is going to be, this specific filing is from January 1st to the same date, February 11th, for John Cornyn. You can see he does have a good amount of large donors, but not a lot of small donors in comparison. The ratio between small donors and large donors is one that people talk quite a lot about. We can also see that he has a lot of money coming in from different sources. Remember, James Tallarico was mostly individuals, whereas John Cornyn, who is a senator for Texas who has been in office for quite some time, he has a lot of money coming in from different PACs, as well as authorized transfers. So this is most likely a leadership commit, a leadership PAC or some other PACs that he's affiliated with that are transferring money to him. He actually started off with cash on hand. Tallarico didn't. Tallarico created his campaign back in February. John Cornyn probably has had this campaign committee for quite some time, so he already had some cash on hand. And again, as of February 11th, John Cornyn at least had spent $4.6 million in operating expenditures. That's again, travel, hotels, media buys, fundraising, that kind of stuff, and had around $5 million cash on hand. All right. And again, like before, there's also more cool visualizations and data that you can see for this specific candidate. So again, this all came from one terminal command that we had. In this case, this was, let me close this out, clear it. This is from this command. So libfec dataset, Texas Senate, cycle 2026. I could also change this to California 41 or 40. This is a race that's happening close by to me. This is a fun one because this specific district has two incumbents, Young Kim and Ken Calvert. These are two, with California redistricting, always fun. These two candidates are now facing each other. Their previous districts were redistricted or put in a different way. So the best shot for them are to go against each other in this giant battle between two Republican California candidates. So we can take a look at their financials. Again, very similar. At least here, good amount of large dollar and small dollar donations. So the ratio is a little bit higher. PAC contributions, transfers, all this stuff. All right. So again, one very easy way to visualize this FEC data using libfec and specifically the dataset command. And if you just wanted to get the data out and not have this cool UI, you could also do something similar to what we had before, where we use the export command and export that to a SQLite database. That is totally possible as well. Now we have a California 40.db SQLite database with all this information. We could look at Schedule A, so these are all the receipt itemizations very easily through SQLite. One last thing I'll demonstrate is independent expenditures. So not only does FEC data have candidates that are running for a congressional race, like a House district or Senate, but there are also committees and PACs that are spending money not affiliated with candidates or supposedly not affiliated with candidates to spend in support or in opposition of different candidates. So for example, I'm going to pull up libfec again. I'm going to search specifically for a committee called Lone Star Rising. All right. By default, this search is for candidates, which you can see right here. But if I want to look at committees, I can press Control B to see the committee results for this. And what Lone Star Rising PAC is, this is a political action committee that is spending a lot of money in the Texas Senate race specifically. So not a lot of top level financial information on this page, but what we could do is I'm going to go ahead and copy the committee ID, Control C to exit out of all this. And now I'm going to export specifically that committee into a new SQLite database called Lone Star Rising, lonestarrising.db. Maybe I don't have libfec API key. So now I'm going to, okay, cool. So we just exported all the data for that committee into a SQLite database. I'm going to run dataset on that database specifically, and it will pull up in the wrong window. Here we go. So now, okay, cool. So now we have a visualization for Lone Star Rising PAC specifically. So now, this political action committee, in its most recent filings, have so this is a slightly different look than the other ones. A lot of so I guess in general, congressional campaign committees are fairly regulated. Only individuals are only allowed to give a certain amount, pretty low. I think it's like $5,000 or $6,000 per candidate per election. Their donors must be very readily apparent. If they get corporate PAC money or other money from different PACs, it is very limited. That's for congressional races. These PACs, on the other hand, especially super PACs, they can kind of do more or less whatever they want, and they can hide their sources so you don't know exactly where some money is coming from, and that is exactly the case with Lone Star Rising. So this report, this is their pre-primary report, so this is financial activity for this specific PAC between January 1st and February 11th, so just in a few weeks before the Texas primary happened. All right, so we can see here that this specific committee had raised a good amount, around $6 million within a few weeks, so that's a pretty good amount. A lot of it did come from large donors, so if we take a look at that and took a look at the list of large dollar donations that they had, we could find a list of these people and kind of go through and like more or less that makes sense, right? We could see that eyeballing it, a lot of this money is like, $10,000, $5,000, a lot of money, but still, more or less, we know who these people are, right? We have their names and addresses. What we don't have information for is what other PACs is. So this is another designation that we can take a look. So this money came from a PAC. How much was this? This is $3.75 million. This is a transfer that came from another PAC called Government That Works. All right. So, okay, this looks like this came from another FEC PAC. We have an ID right here. So what we'll do is to investigate where this $3.7 million came from to this PAC, we will copy that committee ID. And real quick, just so you know what Lone Star Rising is doing, we can take a look at their independent expenditures. So independent expenditures, actually there's a better view down here. So independent expenditures are when a PAC spends money opposing or supporting another candidate. So we could see that Lone Star Rising specifically have spent $2.5 million opposing Jasmine Crockett, but another $1 million supporting James Tallarico. They also seem to be supporting another candidate called Bobby Pulido, but that's in a different House race, House District 15 in Texas. But the biggest thing is that they are spending money directly opposing and supporting a candidate. Now we want to find out the people who are giving money to this PAC to oppose Jasmine Crockett and to support James Tallarico. Sometimes their large donors are present, like in this $2.4 million amount, but this $3.7 million came from another PAC. And if we take that PAC, we go back to our terminal, and we want to investigate what they do. We could do something very similar to what we did before. We're going to run the dataset command on that committee ID. Now, I was using the wrong committee ID. Okay, so this is the committee ID for the PAC that gave Lone Star Lone Star Rising money. So this is the original PAC where the $3.75 million came in. So if we want to take a look at the donors who gave to this PAC, we could again use libfec dataset to get a cool little visualization. We see here there's $7.5 million in other federal receipts. If we would take a look at those itemizations and see where this money came from, we could just see other organizations. So these are 1630 Fund had given how much? Around $4 million, and $500,000 from another. Essentially, we have no idea where this money came from. These are outside organizations and groups, probably 501(c)(4)Cs, 504(c)(4)Cs. These are dark money groups. So we don't know exactly who gave, we don't know exactly where this source of money came from. You could do some, good old-fashioned investigative journalism work to figure out who these organizations are. But for the most part, that data isn't in the FEC website. So there are limits, especially when it comes to dark money and super PACs for FEC data, and libfec only works with FEC data. So at this point, you're going to have to, start calling some people, looking at some state level disclosures to maybe figure out where the source of money comes from. But essentially, at least getting the data side of it, getting the data from the FEC, was just a few little commands on the command line right here. So a few other cool features of libfec that I will demonstrate before we go. There is a RSS feed that you can use to, the FEC has an official RSS feed where they post items whenever a new filing comes in. libfec has a little TUI interface, so you can take a look at that. So for example, we can see right here that this filing from Louisiana Freedom Fund was just filed 3 minutes ago, and also, as well as a few other ones. There is an export command for this, so you can continuously export new filings to a SQLite database. So you can see down here that this is exporting all 1,000 filings that are in the RSS feed, which are from the last 7 days or so. This would be very cool to build kind of like real-time notifications for FEC data. So for example, what you could do is you can set this up, have it running, and when it exports data to SQLite, you can use triggers or a few other tricks to run code whenever something happens. So for example, you can run code for whenever there is a new independent expenditure supporting or opposing a candidate in your home state. Maybe it could send you a notification or post on Blue Sky or send you a message through Slack. You can kind of build those things with libfec, and specifically the libfec RSS feed tool. I will say that I am going to write a tutorial on how to write a Blue Sky bot, so that whenever a filing appears and it has to do with a specific area that you care about, again, maybe it's the state that the candidate lives in, or maybe it is a pre-selected list of packs in an industry that you care about, for example, crypto packs or AI packs. And you could set up notifications or Blue Sky alerts whenever that happens, and I will have a video on that in the near future. Some other cool features of libfec. There is also if you ever want to remember when specific filing dates happen, there is a libfec dates subcommand, has a little calendar with upcoming filing deadlines. So for example, today's date as of this filming is March 9th. Tomorrow is a election for, it looks like Missouri primary elections happening tomorrow. In purple, the dates that are highlighted in purple are deadlines. So the 20th, this is going to be a monthly, I believe it's a March. Let's see. Yes, so March monthly report. That is a FEC filing deadline that's happening this on March and the 20th. So just a nice little view to see upcoming dates and upcoming filing deadlines that are happening. And one last command that I will briefly discuss is libfec bulk. So the libfec bulk command, the FEC does compile some data on a daily basis that a few bulk data sets. So for example, they take all the individual contributors that have all individuals who have donated to anything, whether that's a presidential campaign, congressional campaign, PACs. They pre-package that into one big CSV every night. So libfec bulk can get that bulk data source as well as some other ones like independent expenditures, PAC summaries, Form 1 filers, and it's able to export that into a SQLite database. Without this tool, you have to manually go find a zip file on the FEC website, download it, and parse it in some weird way, but libfec does that for you. So for example, if I wanted to do a bulk export, clear this up, if I wanted to do a bulk export on individual contributors, I'm going to output that to a database, to a SQLite database called individuals. I'm specifically going to look at the latest 2026 cycle. Source, let's see. I typoed. It's going to be individual contributions. There we go. And what this will do is that it will download this bulk messy data set. It will convert it into a SQLite format, and it will put it right into your home directory. So again, there's a lot of, not only does libfec parse FEC filings and use the FEC API, but there are some nice utilities to get some of the bulk data sets that the FEC offers into a nice little format for you as a SQLite database or as a CSV file. As you can see, FEC data is not fun. It is very complex. You don't know whether you're accidentally double counting something, or you don't know how to track down the true source of a specific committee or of a specific campaign that's going on. So you probably need help. And again, we have a Google group now. We have a Google group that you can join. We have a Google group that you can join to ask questions about libfec specifically or about campaign finance in general. There is also the CampFin Slack in the News Nerdery Slack. So if you're a journalist that's in that Slack, you could also use that as a reference or as a resource to ask for help about campaign finance. But this Google group specifically is also for libfec. So if you have any libfec related questions, feature requests, bug reports, feel free to email me there and I'll be happy to help you out. So again, in general, I hope you enjoyed this very brief and very fast introduction to libfec. Again, join the Google group if you have any questions. Feel free to email me directly. The link to the tip sheet is down in the description below, as well as the presentation, the little manual booklet PDF, as well as a bunch of other resources. So again, feel free to join that Google group, ask me any questions, and expect some other videos about campaign finance in the near future.